Hey guys, it's Rebecca Mara here, and I'm an energy healer and somatic body worker and intuitive coach. And I wanted to give you some important information about your healer or shaman or therapist or whatever, mostly about shamans and energy healers. And if I seem serious today, I am serious. And I won't come from this standpoint very often, but I have a very strong protector in me of the innocence of our inner children. And it's incredibly important to me in your healing sessions that your inner children are taken care of and that you're not being re traumatized or exposed to something that you aren't able to handle yet. The skill of your practitioner or shaman or energy healer is incredibly important before you venture into sessions with them. And where a lot of people um, start to get in trouble is that they trust their healer or shaman or energy healer more than they should. And this is just because there's a title there, like this is the therapist, or this is the shaman, or this is a healer. And there's an assumption that that person knows more than you do about what's good for you or right for you. And that is absolutely not true. And it's very, very important that the power is equal in these healing relationships. And that means being able to set your boundaries, to see how much experience that person has, and if they're able to hold you in very vulnerable and open states. All of this is really, really important when you're looking for a practitioner to work with, because whether you're working with a plant medicine or your own trauma or your own energy, you're extremely vulnerable. You're completely open and you're in the hands of that healer, practitioner, or therapist. And it's very important that that person knows how to hold you. And that holding has to be met with gentleness, tenderness, and a lot of skill. So I want to talk about some of the main things that can happen in a session that you should really have approach a new practitioner with caution. So one thing is that you can easily be re-traumatized. Another is that there can be a dramatic power differential that's not healthy or good for you, where you can undermine your own growth process and your own trust in yourself and place your power in that healer's hands. I'm not saying that you can't trust anybody, but I am saying that it's important that you check out these people before you open up everything to them. Another thing is, on a more esoteric level, these people could be opening portals to an astral realm with all these beings and spirits that are not good for you. And this is, instead of working with the angelic realm, you're working with the lower astral. Really bad stuff. Another thing is that I think I said this already, but you can be re-traumatized. And if you're re-traumatized, that's a very dangerous place to be, because you could be spiraling for a week or a month and you can feel way worse and you're kind of left like hanging. I'll go into this with a little bit more detail. But the other thing is that there can be a power differential where you keep exposing yourself to harsh elements that aren't healthy for you at all. Your power should be just as strong as your healers, and when there is a power differential, you'll doubt yourself and you'll place all the power in that healer's hands, assuming that they know what they're going to do. So I'll go into more specifics around this now. The re-traumatizing can happen when you are really trusting of your healer and they are opening up your vulnerabilities and pushing you to find like more love or more openness before they've established a relationship of trust with you. So when you're getting therapy, the effectiveness of it is based on 70% trust. The therapeutic relationship itself, a secure attachment, a healing relationship, is 70% of the healing. It's not about the content or what you talk about. It's about a really healthy, good relationship with great boundaries and a trust that's established over time. So if you just kind of open yourself up to a healer right away, but you don't have your own back, it's the same thing as jumping into a relationship and exposing everything before you've established trust with that person. So this isn't necessarily a good thing. Sometimes, I have plenty of clients that come in and they're open right away and they're trusting me and they're open to me, but there's something different about that, right? Because I don't think that I'm better than them. I don't think that I'm more important than them or more powerful than them. I think that we are a we. What they're experiencing is also a part of me, and I have humility, and I don't want someone to trust me more than I've earned. I don't want someone to throw themselves at me and open wide up at their own detriment. Does that make sense? There's something really important about a healer being able to hold a really great space. It might be powerful shifts. I've moved immense emotions, immense traumas out of people, but I keep it as light as I can. I make sure that they feel safe. I am really down to earth. I really care about them. I meet things with tenderness. When it's too serious, I can crack little jokes so that people feel safe and they aren't taking things too seriously. I create a field of ground, simplicity, and safety, because what we're doing is huge epic shit. And the inner children, when we're moving really big stuff, they need to be treated with a lot of care and gentleness and tenderness. Absolutely. Those inner children need to be taken care of. So I'll come back to that re-traumatizing. When someone is exposing you in a way that makes you feel unsafe, you absolutely need to stop. If you feel unsafe in a way that feels too great for you, no matter who you're with, you need to stop. And sometimes we can work those edges where we feel unsafe, but we still are able to have a transcendent experience. But it can also be a roll of the dice. And safety is extremely important for a healing experience. So if you're kind of taking your inner child and going, I need you to grow, and you push them off a cliff, I hope you fly, that's not healing, that's not loving at all. Sometimes you can take that risk and it'll work out, but it's a roll of the dice. You don't know how it's going to go. So if you don't feel safe with that person, you shouldn't be opening to them. It's that simple. And when you open to them, you do little by little in chunks that feel good to you, where you're still maintaining your sense of safety. Because if you don't feel safe and you feel a lot of fear, it's not a healing experience, period. And a lot of times people will let that healer guide them into stuff that they do feel unsafe with and not hold them in that experience. It's okay to feel unsafe, but if you can't regulate and you stay in that feeling of unsafety, it's not okay. Things have to stop, and it's the job of that healer to track that and to stop and to hand your power back to you, or to pull back or slow down, whatever that is. If you're working with trauma and you start feeling unsafe and you stay there, that's a very, very bad experience, and that's what you call re-traumatizing. Okay? And so if you trust that person more than yourself and you assume that they can hold the space, you could end up in a place that's dangerous for you. And you could feel worse after your session. You could feel worse for a week. Sometimes people feel worse after a month. And speaking of that, I'll move into the lower astral stuff. So when you're working with a shaman and you're doing plant medicine like ayahuasca, or you're doing anything that's mind altering, you can end up with kind of floating through different dimensions. So what happens when you're doing plant medicine is you're opening up dimensions, and a lot of shamans are not that trained. So most of them can't even do energy healing when they're sober, which is really, really scary, because now in the Western world, anybody has access to ayahuasca or mushrooms or MDMA or whatever it is that they're experimenting with. And these people have not been trained in the spiritual arts for very long. And so what can happen is that they're overly confident, and people have such remarkable experiences because of the medicine that shaman starts to kind of power trip. And it's just like gurus that get too much power. They assume that they can do no wrong, and everybody loves them and thinks that they're incredible just because they're the holder of this medicine or the facilitator of this medicine. However, it's the medicine itself that's doing the work. It's not necessarily that person. And so plant medicines are incredibly powerful forces, and someone who is not equipped to handle them and hasn't done enough training and hasn't had enough mentorship to handle them, it's kind of like having a little kid with a big gun. And most of the time in these situations, it could turn out okay. And then there's always this moment where it's not, where the facilitator is holding a space where someone feels like another person might be violating of them, but they don't speak up. Where there's some kind of like that person is telling them what their experience is, but it's not matching their experience, which can be kind of a mind fuck. And again, that's like if there isn't consensual reality where both are experiencing the same thing, that can mess with you because you can kind of trust that person more than yourself. The lower astral, so when people are opening these portals and they don't know how to navigate different dimensions and control them or close them off, instead of just going to like an angelic room or angelic world or animal spirit realm or plant spirit realm, like these are all pretty healthy and good. But there's also a realm that most people who do medicines go to, which is just kind of trippy, and that's where a lot of lower astral beings are. And when those portals are open, you're no longer protected, and you don't know that. So this is really important. I want everybody to know this. If you do plant medicines, there's a chance, especially if you have trauma, that these beings will attach to you and you will have anxiety like you've never had before. You might have depression or suicidal thoughts like you never had before. And this isn't to scare you, but this is to tell you these are possibilities. With people that I know that are fairly untraumatized, they really don't have these kinds of experiences because they don't have a pain in their own system for these beings to attach to. But these beings are basically kind of parasitic. And I've investigated this for a really long time, and I've talked to all the best energy healers in Boulder, Colorado, and all of them have said, all the best healers have said, I hate it when people do ayahuasca. I have to pull so many entities off of them. That's a big fucking deal, right? Listen to that. All the best healers are saying, like, to use it with caution, to use it with care. And history will show that most shamans or healers, before they're allowed to use that medicine, or even Kabbalists weren't allowed to use the power of Kabbalah until they had studied and cleaned themselves for 40 years. So it's very important to have a lot of training and a lot of skills spiritually, and to have cleansed yourself before you start handling other people, because your ego is going to want power, and it will do things for power that could also harm people, whether conscious or unconscious. Usually it's unconscious. Most of these people don't want to harm someone. They're just kind of excited about this new experience. So that's the lower astral part and being able to navigate spiritual realms. I talked to a Native American medicine man who was so sweet. And what he said is that your power is only as great as the power of your heart. And that means that you clear yourself of pride, you clear yourself of your own traumas, you work through your own things so that you know how to help someone else navigate through the same things, right? You have to work your own stuff if you want to lead other people through that experience. And there's something about, this medicine man that I worked with who he was one of the most amazing people that I've met, and it wasn't what he taught me, it was who he was. He was incredibly humble, incredibly reverent, incredibly caring and generous. And that's a true medicine person. Someone who really cares, that is so humble. And I want to say that humility is essential to a good healer-client relationship. Your healer needs to be humble because your healer is a human just like you. They fuck up, they do stupid things, they learn from their lessons. There's nothing that makes that person more equipped than you. There needs to be a we-ness, right? Like if your healer acts like they're so powerful and they're higher than you and they'll help you get to their level, watch out. Because that healer is in denial of their own shadow, or they're presenting in a way that they're perfect or higher than, and they're just a human like you. I might have like big powers in some ways or big abilities, but I don't try to make myself more special than my clients. That would be so icky, right? Like, why would I want to be better and like impress and show my clients how great I am so that they feel like they're lower than me, always trying to get to the place where I am because I'm so special? Like, that's really scary. I have a friend that was really traumatized by a leader who's become very powerful, and she's an incredible energy healer, this leader, and she kind of seduces people into places of openness before she's established real trust. And there's a huge power differential there. And now all of these people have left. It's splitting in half, and there's this whole thing of like my way or the highway, where the leader they seem so loving and they seem so helpful, but there's a lot of narcissism wrapped in their personality where they can't see their blind spots. And when that happens, they will start manipulating their students, and it takes a while for the students to learn how to respect themselves and trust themselves just as much as any leader or any teacher. When you put your power in another person's hands, whether it's a guru or a spiritual teacher or a healer, and you give all your power to them and you want them to save you, there's something that's going to go wrong all the time. And so for those students, it's really important to learn that you can trust yourself and you can trust your own boundaries and where your no is, and not give that power away to a healer and assume that everything that they say is what's right for you. And so there's a beautiful way to take your power back. And I also want to say that part of why I made this video in the first place is that a really dear, sweet person that I've worked with has been in the hospital for 2 days because of a combo, which is a frog poison. A combo ceremony wrecked his body. He got poisoned. He's in the hospital for days. That's not okay, right? Like, just because you can have this medicine or order it from Peru or whatever doesn't mean that you're equipped to handle it. And it feels great to have the high of having spiritual power. It feels great to have the high of being a medicine keeper. It feels amazing. It feels amazing to have spiritual power. And it's kind of scary. when you can't see your blind spots and you aren't humble, you aren't as human as the person that you're working with, there's a dangerous place there. And what I encourage everyone to do is to trust yourselves, to really trust yourselves, to not give your power away to another person, but to work harmoniously with them. And if that person isn't humble and they aren't on the same level as you, and they aren't willing to admit their weaknesses, like, please don't work with them. And keep that inner child protected instead of exposed and open to elements that might not be protective of them. Our inner children, even in a powerful experience, need to be held in safety and love and gentleness in order to truly heal. So extreme situations like really intense body work or some plant medicines or, pushing the limits isn't always what's best for people. Sometimes gentleness is the biggest way to have a powerful experience because you feel safe and you feel loved. And safety and love are the greatest transformational forces, more than, calling on some big being to save you. It's like our humanness needs safety and love. So hopefully this will give guidance and help protect anybody from just being in a dangerous situation. I think that these instances are rare, but I also see them all the time in Boulder here, where there are a lot of healers and a lot of people doing plant medicines. I see them all the time, and I just want people to understand and have wisdom from someone who's been around the block for a while and from someone who's talked to a lot of the top healers. I just want you to take caution and really care for your inner children, and to really trust yourself, to feel love for yourself while you're seeking a human healing experience. It's so important. Your love for your inner child and your loving kindness and your protection of her is going to make a big difference in your life, more than a therapy session will. So I hope that this is helpful for everyone. I can't see how it's not. It's something I really want to get out there, and I want it to be understood. And I'm sending you all care and love from my protective mama bear. Okay, love to you all.